Welcome back, one and all, as we close out the week here on the Dares Report. I'm John Iadarola, and I am joined, as always, by Brett Erlich. Brett, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. It's probable that I joined so late that they can't actually. Wow, they're magicians.
So basically, behind the scenes, Brett had some tech trubs, and he wasn't here until like in the middle of the intro. So our tech team behind the scenes is obviously amazing, so they got it all done. TD's on it, but the downside is, Brett, these are literally the first words we're exchanging, and it's strange to not have chatted with you before the show. I feel unmoored.
Couldn't throw you any curveballs before we started. No. Oh, the worst part about this, John, is like I'm not centered in my own shot. And while obviously the magicians behind the scenes have centered me up and they're probably adjusting, all it's gonna do is mess with me the whole time.
You're probably gonna get steadily more and more dizzy and just fall out of frame at some point.
I am a person with vertigo.
I'm gonna throw up. I don't like what's happening. The podcast people can't tell, but they're moving the image. It's very strange. Anyway.
Ashley, give me a thumbs up if they tell you it's okay after John starts talking for me to center myself.
Okay, well, while you're centering yourself physically, and I'm trying to center myself in terms of my headspace. Thank you everyone for being here as we close out this week here at the Damage Report. We got a lot to talk about, man. We're gonna be talking about the prices of things. We're gonna be talking about mass deportations and how judges are fighting back against it. You know what we're not gonna be talking about? Tariffs, actually, for the first day. And not because there's not big updates, there is. China's jacked their tariffs on us up to 125%. The economic crash continued on through yesterday. Everything's really devastating. I just think we need one day to just let it lie. Don't worry, there's gonna be chaos and economic devastation on Monday. And so we'll talk about it then. And this.
900 Club, boys.
900 Club. You were here for it, okay? We started at 999. We have 900 shows remaining until the next presidential election. We got there. Thank you, Bricked Up Benny. You realized it.
The 900 Club is actually the name of like a really awesome like members only club in Manhattan Beach that when you from the outside doesn't look like anything, but inside you feel like you're in like a candy castle. It's very strange.
It does sound fun. That's my favorite type of castle. But anyway, we have lots of other stuff we're gonna get to too. And we will, like I said, return to tariffs. We're gonna be talking about doggy, and we're gonna be talking about garbage and Marjorie Greene getting clowned on by Community Notes. We've got important news and we've got fun news. We can do both. And with that said, Brett, you ready to jump into this thing?
Whether I am or not, you've been more than fair.
Nice. Okay, let's do it.
Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it. And Brooke Rollins and our team did a great job. And eggs are down now 79%, and they're all over the place. And this was a problem that somebody else would have taken a long time to cure.
Yeah, so he dealt with it. It's not a problem anymore. Someone else would have taken a long time and get off his back about it. Like he's supposed to solve problems like day one. He's not the type of guy to promise to solve problems day one, you lamestream media. But anyway, he's saying there, don't worry about it. We solved that problem. They're down 79% and they're everywhere. Like I'm literally stepping on them as I'm walking through the studio. And a couple of weeks ago, I actually said, this is just anecdotal at this point, but I felt like when I went to the supermarket, there were eggs. They seem to have gone down in price. I was being super fair in pointing that out. Now, since then, I did point out that once again, Trader Joe's didn't have any eggs and they seem to be pretty expensive, but that's all anecdotal. And that's clearly not enough. Nor is what he has to say about the issue enough, because it turns out that was a big fat pack of lies. Nothing that he said was true. And in fact, egg prices have continued to jump up to now a new all-time high. And he has not been in office for just 2 weeks. So I guess now it's his fault. They have now gone on average, dozen eggs, grade A, large, $6.23. And so can we bring up that chart for one more second? Because there's a couple interesting things there. First of all, that we've reached this new high that is now significantly higher than it ever was under Joe Biden. That's interesting. Also interesting, you're telling me in 2019 you could get a dozen eggs for like $1.15? Where? I've never done that. But anyway, that's what the chart shows. And so he says it's way down, and importantly, that it's going down more. But not only is it not down now, it's up. It's also not expected to go down anytime soon. In fact, his own administration's food price outlook, that forecasts a 57.6% increase in egg prices throughout this year. And they believe it could be anywhere from 30 to 91.5% that it goes up. So that $6.23 could be 9, it could be 11 by the end of this year. And so that's a big issue. Now, he is saying he's gonna do what he can to try to continue to solve the problem that he hasn't actually solved. He's talking about bringing in like more imports and stuff like that. So he had sought agreements to increase imports to help increase supplies devastated by the bird flu outbreaks that we'd experienced and bring down prices. And that did in fact help wholesale prices. It's also, by the way, exactly what the Biden administration was trying to do, but whatever, good, they're both doing the right thing. But the decrease in wholesale prices, which are charged to distributors, did not actually pull down the retail prices, which is what we pay when we go to grocery stores. In fact, the retail price of eggs has continued to rise. And I would just like to point out that if your only solution to the problem is to do one of the things Biden was doing, which is increase imports, and you're putting tariffs on everything, those two things don't necessarily go very well together. And I know what you're thinking at this point, John, shut up about the egg prices. And I hear you, Charlie Kirk. I hear that you want everyone to not talk about things that make Trump look bad. That's actually a thing that he had said. And that Trump also re-truthed on Truth Social. Shut up about egg prices. But the thing about it, Brett, is I've tried to be fair generally. If I think that something that's bad that's happening is actually the fault of the president or the administration, then we point it out. And if it's not, it's not. And so some of the rise in egg prices, it's like there's outbreaks of bird flu and stuff. Like that's what's gonna happen, and you need to deal with that. Here's the thing though. There aren't outbreaks of bird flu right now. Apparently it's been a little bit since that happened. That's not actually why egg prices are as high as they are now. Some of the flocks are still a little bit devastated because they had to do those mass culls and all of that. But the interesting thing is that like under the pandemic, it isn't just that prices are up, profits are massively up. Robert Reich pointed out that the biggest of our domestic egg producers is Cal-Maine. They announced quarterly profits of $509 million, more than 3 times what they made just a year ago. And this is an industry that's very consolidated. And so even as that was going on, by the way, that same company, which is making record-breaking profits, they took $42 million in federal compensation for losses due to bird flu. There's no bird flu, that's what we need, it's bird flu. While apparently not cutting it all into their profits to help defray the rising prices. And so normally I might say this isn't Trump's fault, it's an act of God or whatever. But when the price rise seems to be in no small part due to these companies choosing to take ever increasing profits, well, Donald Trump is the guy with the art of the deal. He's the one that loves to bust into the room all strong, alpha male, silverback gorilla. Why doesn't he put some pressure on these companies to bring down the prices? So I don't think this is a situation where he can just claim that it's not his fault. He's not doing almost anything to bring the prices down as they continue to skyrocket. What do you think?
It's because every Trump fan who looks at the ink blot behavior of Donald Trump always sees good guy. That's the problem. Even though he completely destroys the economy overnight for no good reason. And even though he has billionaires into the Oval Office, and I don't know if anybody's seen the leaked video of him looking at billionaires and being like, that guy made $500 million yesterday because of what I did. This guy made $100 million yesterday because of what I did. He's bragging about it. And I've been talking to like random people. I talked to a guy yesterday who was a Democrat who voted Trump. He was talking about, I was a Democrat under Bill Clinton who balanced the budget. Like it's a bunch of weird, this is textbook realignment stuff. But what I noticed from these folks is I don't blame people for this. It's just like someone you've decided is the person you have hope in. It's very difficult for folks to then realize that they were never on your side, even though their entire argument is that people like this are sharks. Like Donald Trump is a shark. And the same people, a lot of people also say that like their fear of the government is that once the government gets control of something, they latch into that dynamic and it's hard to get the government not to be in control of it, right? But the same goes for corporations. Whenever there's a bird flu, and this is like Black Swan is about this. The Black Swan moment is that they use the raised prices due to actual economic factors to get people to pay this much for eggs. But when those factors subsided, if they're all working together because there's no small business competition, there's economies of scale, there's these giant corporations that can look around each other the same way people in stalls at the ballpark are like, yo, everybody's got to buy from us. Let's keep the prices at $9, even though we've got bird flu under control. And then all the other factors, basically, and then this is the reason why I'm a progressive, because progressivism is just ground rules against this kind of crap. And what Donald Trump will never, ever do is get in there and fix it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think it's a great way to explain one of the sort of core appeals of the ideology. And yeah, he's never going to pressure them. I mean, Fox News went all the price gouging and profiteering that we saw throughout the pandemic. Their like main marching orders were take all of the pressure off the corporations that are screwing people over, including our viewers. And that's what they did. And so Trump is never going to focus on that, even though that might be one of the best and maybe easiest ways to get the prices down. And more importantly, we're focusing on eggs, but eggs are a symptom of a larger problem, which is that this profiteering is still here from the last round, as you pointed out, under the pandemic. And he's also created the conditions under which we might see a lot more of it, because as we keep saying, the tariffs, which are still here and are still at historic levels, they're not just the direct cause of prices going up. They create an environment where everybody knows that prices are going up. And so if you're a terrible corporation that wants to do a bit of price gouging, well, you've got an atmosphere now where people might sort of just expect it and might not be that surprised by it. And Trump gave them that.
Many people thought Trump nailed it in a debate against Hillary Clinton when she's like, you don't pay your taxes. And he said, that makes me smart. That same vibe is at the heart of people who run these farms or that distribute these eggs, not necessarily run these farms. The people that are selling these eggs are like, I'm still charging the high price. That makes me smart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is smart. You know what's smarter? Us advocating on behalf of people who need to buy the eggs to make sure you don't do crap like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope the next update we have on eggs in a month or two is going to be a little bit more positive, but things continue to spiral out of control. And with that said, why don't we move on to other news? We have some good news for you, and the only thing that can make that good news even better, perhaps, is that Laura Ingraham is not at all happy about having to deliver it. Take a look.
Well, the Supreme Court, in an unsigned order, essentially allowed a lower court order that said from Judge Boasberg, now you got to bring that deported El Salvador illegal alien back to the United States, can't remain in that supermax prison. Well, the court essentially said you got to facilitate it. So that just broke before the show.
So look, that's good news and also unexpected news. I would not have predicted that the Supreme Court would have agreed or upheld or whatever the complicated process was that Boasberg's order effectively stands, and the government, which has admitted that Garcia should have never been deported to this prison, that they have to go and get him. They have to facilitate his release. So that's good news. The better part of it, though, is that she's delivering it like this. It's so terrible from her point of view that this guy who is rotting in this terrible condition, God only knows what's already happened to him. Like we literally do not know what he has already experienced. We don't know for sure that he's even alive. And so we could have a tiny bit of good come out of all the evil that we're seeing. And she hates it. She hates it. Not only because of the outcome, she wants him in that prison, but also I think she expected, as I did, that the Supreme Court would go along with this, that immigration would be one of the areas where they wouldn't feel that they need to check Donald Trump at all. And it also makes it a little bit harder for them to continue to imply that Boasberg is some sort of like crooked judge that's single-handedly stopping Trump from doing what he needs to do, what he was elected to do. No, apparently there are some valid concerns in this area, at least according to the Supreme Court, which, by the way, many of its members put on the court by Donald Trump. And that said, we're going to discuss and we'll give you more details about what the Supreme Court did and what they didn't do. But first, a bit more from Laura Ingraham.
Well, here we go. We got a massive problem with illegal immigration in the United States. The voters made it clear they wanted Donald Trump to do something about it. Donald Trump tries to take measures, sometimes, I guess, extraordinary measures to keep us safe. And yet the courts say, no, we're going to step in as the commander-in-chief and essentially do your job.
Again, never under the last 4 years did she ever, when the Supreme Court would overturn something Biden did she declare that they were becoming the commander-in-chief. Total 180, obviously, from her position on what the courts should have been doing under Joe Biden. Nobody's surprised by that. And again, when is she going to acknowledge that the guy never should have been sent there? Like, she still pitched it. The farthest she would go, that it's not even really criticism, is extraordinary measures. What about boneheaded measures? What about incompetent measures? What about like treating a person's life like it's a piece of litter where it doesn't really matter if we get it wrong? And we can just leave him there forever. And you know what? We'll keep calling him a terrorist. Even though we've already admitted that he never should have been sent there, we're gonna call him a terrorist and we're gonna wait and we're gonna dawdle and maybe he gets murdered in prison or whatever. But come on, he was elected to do this. Just let him kill some people. What's the difference, Brett?
They're like, this is an overstep of the Supreme Court. This is what the Supreme Court's designed to do. The framers of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they created this system to protect us against actions like Donald Trump. The proof of that is in the decision. Like, this is the friendliest court a Republican president has had in 100 years. This is basically Donald Trump in a jacuzzi with his best friends, and they're just having a great Saturday. That's how it should go for him, bias-wise. But even the Supreme Court is like, said something that should be obvious to all of us, which is like, yo, you can't just send someone to El Salvador on a whim. Like, that's bad. You can't do that. You need to, if you broke it, you need to facilitate the fixing of it. And I definitely have a problem with Laura Ingraham sitting there and going like, oh, you know what? By the way, I think that, I forgot. Sorry, I looked down at something. My bad. Sorry, we're also trying to fix the video and I saw that it's ugly. Is it ugly? Never mind, you go.
Your video looks great. You're fine, okay. Don't worry.
But yeah, the other thing is that, her saying that the voters said that we need to fix the immigration. They didn't say to send random people to El Salvador. And how many of the people said we wanted, they sent a clear message they wanted Trump to do something about it? No. There is nothing clear about the last election. The last election might have been decided by a bunch of factors. And coalition building is like, some people wanted this, some people wanted that. But there is no explicit mandate that Donald Trump needs to randomly send people to El Salvador. Yeah. Now, a lot of people voted against Democrats because they didn't like that Joe Biden's brain turned to jello.
Yes, and also, look, first of all, what did people vote for? Why did they choose him? That's a little bit more complicated than I think Laura Ingraham is prepared to imply. But let's say that people did, in some sense, want him to do something about immigration. Maybe they would have wanted him to not stop a bill from being passed like 6 months earlier, but whatever. Okay, so the law doesn't apply? The Constitution doesn't apply? Well, so what about when Joe Biden kicked Donald Trump out of the office? Is that just now, well, whatever he campaigned on, he can do whatever he wants, and the courts should shut the hell up about it. He implied he would do something about student debt. So I guess the court should shut the hell up about it. And more importantly, the media should shut the hell up about it, because that's what he ran on and he won. So Laura Ingraham, you should shut up. You should just bow down for 4 years, forehead to the floor, and let the guy who was elected by a far larger margin than Donald Trump was do whatever it is that he campaigned on, or that we now say he campaigned on. And there shouldn't be any opposition, because that's the system she wants. As long as it's a Republican that's in power, there shouldn't be any opposition. There shouldn't be any media. The court should shut the hell up. Kind of seems a little bit like a dictatorship is what it seems like. And that's what she's selling to her audience every day, even when it's like a super majority of conservatives conceding that they've gone way too far. In any event, I want to move on to a little bit more, and we'll tell people more. Let's jump to this next video.
Would you defy a court order? Because that we all know
No,
that. That was outrageous.
I never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future.
No, you can't do that. However, we have bad judges.
Okay, so I just wanted to remind everyone of that because that's a member of the media, ostensibly, trying to urge him, cajole him into saying, I'm not going to comply with what the judges have said. Now, in so doing, he lies and says that he hasn't defied any judges. He has already defied the judges. But what she and other right-wingers in the media want is for Trump to just say very clearly so that they can be comfy and warm and cozy, I don't care what the courts say. I don't even care what the Supreme Court, most of whom are there because of me, say. I'm gonna do literally anything I want. The regulations don't count, the rules don't count, the laws don't count, the Constitution doesn't count. I am the only one with any power, and that's how it's gonna go. That is clearly what she wants. And we find ourselves now in a situation where we have an even better test of that than we've had in the past. In some of those tests over the past 2 months, he has already shown that he's not going to comply with the courts. In this case, it's the Supreme Court, and they're saying you have to facilitate the transfer of Garcia back from El Salvador to America. Now, he doesn't want to do that. He's gonna say he can't do that. He obviously can do that. He's the one with the financial deal that he set up with this prison to send people there. And the idea that he thinks he simultaneously has all of the power to like cow China on trade, but he doesn't have the power to get El Salvador to transfer one dude back to America. I don't quite believe it, but that's the argument they're gonna make, Brett. What do you think?
There is no incentive for them to do anything about this unless we make us think about it. Like, I forget who I was watching, but it was like a surprisingly right wing. Oh no, I think it was on Joe Rogan, where the guy's like, here's the problem now. Like, they have every incentive to not share information about all the innocent people that got swept up in all of this.
That's true.
The only message that I'm trying to send to everybody out there is like, these guys are exactly, you need to watch out for, in Donald Trump, you need to watch out for all the stuff you're complaining about normal politicians over. He's doing all of it. Like, he's making public the things he's proud to make public, and he's keeping secret all the things he wants to keep secret. And in the meantime, every secret thing that gets out looks horrible for him. And what's weird is like his supporters say like, oh, see, they're treating him so badly. By what? Telling him that they sent like a random hairdresser to a concentration, like a maximum security prison from movies like, you know, that one where Vince Vaughn almost died after he got arrested for taking weed to Thailand.
Didn't see that one. There was that one with Sean Connery. That one was pretty good. It was on a rock somewhere. But anyway, yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous. And again, like, so first of all, just super fast. And I ask you this because you're most likely to disagree with me. Like, objectively, 2 months in, this is way, way worse than last time, right?
Yes, this is way, way worse than last time.
Way more, okay. Lawless and, okay, good. We agree about that.
It's way the better time for us to like, do all the stuff we've all been doing.
I'm trying.
Everybody's trying. Everybody who lost to Donald Trump is miserable and doing their best to try to fix it. That's how you should read those tea leaves.
And in terms of this, I've been saying throughout this week, my fear is that like, so initially they're sending, they announced they're gonna send people to El Salvador or Guantanamo or whatever. And we're all aggrieved. Then they start doing it. Now we're aggrieved about like a particular case. So it feels like we've naturally ceded, oh, I guess they're gonna send some people, but like that guy shouldn't be there. So I don't like that. And so what's the next step? How do you distract people from like the migrants that shouldn't be there? I feel like the inevitable step that's coming is US citizen. They're just gonna start sending US citizens there. And then how are we gonna be reporting on like the hairdresser? Because now it's an even more ridiculous thing that's happened. And like, I don't know, there will be some in the audience who'd be like, well, I don't think he'll actually do that. But like, did we think 3 months ago that he would be defending letting people rot for the rest of their life, people who should never have been sent there to this absolutely horrid place? But we're there, we've already done that. They've already announced the Guantanamo thing. He's already saying he wants to send US citizens to El Salvador. Like again, feel free to disagree. I feel like that's the thing that's coming and it could be next week. I don't know, what do you think?
But this is the bad stuff, right? Like there's a difference between saying everything he's doing is the worst and everybody who supports him is a Nazi. I don't think we should do that. There's a difference between that and saying like this undeniably horrible thing is undeniably horrible at every time. And that discipline of or like principled, non-lazy messaging is very key here. There's a lot of people who will, watch MSNBC or like a bunch of those like similar things where like the role of that video in their mind is to be like, this is all the worst thing. And also Donald Trump is cooked. And also everything is, you're fine and it's the worst at the same time. It's just like this wad of dopamine delivery.
Yeah.
But if you look at every single action and judge it based on its reasons, problems, and consequences, then I think you're set. As long as you do that. And I think the sum, to answer your question, the sum of the badness is a bigger sum than it was the first time around. Yeah. I said on your show before COVID, like it just hasn't gotten bad enough for basic normal people to throw them out.
Yeah, and I don't know
basic normal white people.
Yeah, I don't know what would have to happen for
everyone
people with
not like me is abnormal, is what I mean.
I was picking that up. I was getting that. Yeah. No, it's just the tariffs on China are 145%. If the tariffs on China can be 145%, there is nothing too crazy for him to do at this point. That's what I would say. Anyway, with that said, we need to take our first break. We got a lot of other news to get to, and we will after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. John Fox gifted a membership, super nice of you, thank you. CDN Norse Dad gifted 5 memberships, and I saw a call to, if possible, to pay it forward. And thank you, I appreciate you doing that and the philosophy behind it. Angela Benitez became a member, thank you. By the way, in the members' in the members' content that we're gonna be doing after the show today, we're gonna be talking about this story that I think Brett is gonna like, which is a Christian pastor who is arguing that he is not going to go through the metal detectors at airports because those are gay beams. And he has an alternative he's willing to submit himself to that seems a little bit ironic. Anyway, we're gonna be breaking that down, giving our thoughts after this. Hubby Dragon, member for 14 months, says our local store has cage-free brown eggs at about $4 a dozen. Yeah, I think there's gonna be massive variation, especially if you're getting it local or whatever. We had a period where in California it was $11 or $12. A month ago, I got them for like $6 or $7. I don't know what they're like. Like I said, the last time I went to Trader Joe's, they literally didn't have any eggs. So it really does depend where you are.
But also like that at Amazon-owned Whole Foods, they're frequently out of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're focusing on, there's a way to look at it where it's like less waste and more efficiency, but like they're always adjusting everything in real time. There's upsides to that in terms of waste. There's downsides in terms of like they've literally said, Walmart, I think, like it's great. We have real-time pricing on our LED screens on the shelf. So on a hot day, we can charge more for water.
Yeah.
Like that's why when people say, oh, regulations are bad, like some good regulations are good, bad regulations are bad. But I think we should have regulations against Walmart charging you more for water because it's a hot day.
Well, but think about all the instances in which they'll lower the prices with that cool technology. Like for instance.
But you realize all their falling prices are on physical signs on the commercials, which creates a horrible
Who cleans
danger.
Those up? Anyway, okay, let's jump into some of these members' comments. Old Turk says the 900 Club sounds like the 700 Club, but 28% better. I haven't been in it, so I don't know. I assume it is. Let's see. Carlin the True Prophet says, as much as I hate to give the Tangerine Tyrant credit, he has managed to wipe out 100 years of economic, political, social, military, and scientific progress in only 3 months. Pretty good. Yeah, he's efficient. Mr. Funktastic Dragon says, take away all our money, then egg pricing won't matter. Well, that's, I think, the true spirit of Liberation Day, is you're liberated from having to make these complicated, mentally draining choices about how to spend your money. You won't have to do that anymore. Over 9,000, Enter the Dragon says, I guess if I can't have eggs for breakfast, I'll have to settle for the rich. That's a modest proposal. Civic Folly says she has a Joan Rivers knockoff haircut. I think talking about Laura Ingraham. I don't remember Joan Rivers' hair enough to say. But remember, being a host on Fox, you are trying to conjure for your audience the television that they are more familiar with from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So retro works, I think, in that context. Cabbage says the parliamentarian won't let Trump bring him back. See, that's pretty good. I like that. Cabbage, if you had a Blue Apron gift card, send an email to rewards@tytnetwork.com. I'll get you hooked up. And it actually reminds me that I wanted to talk about how, remember we couldn't have a rise to the federal minimum wage because of the parliamentarian just too powerful. They announced that some of the stuff they're gonna
do what? What, John? What they announce? Mind the dragon transition, John.
That didn't feel like 4 minutes of social break. Anyway, okay, well, with that said, why don't we jump into our next story? We've got a fun one, not at all scary or ominous. Let's jump into this.
We have now, the autism rates have gone from now most recent numbers we think are going to be about 1 in 31, 1 in 20, so they're going up again. From 1 in 10,000 when I was a kid. And we are going at your direction. We are going to know by September. We've launched a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures.
So first, let me say, dear God. Also, hey, we got there this fast. RFK Jr. is gonna do the thing that he was always going to do. Now it's gonna get worse. We're gonna play more video for you. But among the many things that RFK Jr. wants to meddle with in the government, it's gonna be doing something to cure us of autism. His numbers are made up. We'll break those down. The campaign at Trump's direction is nonsensical. He's gonna cite some of the discredited studies that he's been hawking for literally decades. But it actually gets a little bit scarier once Trump starts to sort of riff on what maybe they need to do to cure us of this epidemic.
So you think you're gonna have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
There will be no bigger news conference than that. So that's it. If you can come up with that answer where you stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's a shot, but something's causing it. It can't be from 10,000 to. Can you imagine that, Marco? That's a big number.
Yeah. So you stop taking something like a shot. Just say it. You're gonna ban the vaccines. That's what you're gonna do. That's what RFK Jr. has been working towards for literally decades, as we kept being told by all of his defenders. No, he's not anti-vaccine. Also, the thing I love the most about him is that he's anti-vaccine, but he's not anti-vaccine. And if he gets in, he's not gonna ban the vaccines. It's kind of looking like he's gonna try to ban the vaccines. And Trump mentioned Marco there. Imagine that. 10,000, imagine that. And go back and watch that and watch how uncomfortable Marco Rubio is as both of those men are speaking, because Marco Rubio knows that all of this is nonsense, conspiratorial quack masquerading as science. And to be clear, imagine that, 10,000. You'd have to, because it's based in literally nothing. Nobody has any idea where Kennedy is getting that number that he keeps saying. He just says it all the time now, and Donald Trump knows even less about this than Kennedy does and has less functional gray matter in his skull at this point than Kennedy does. So he just says it too. Back in 2000, approximately 1 in 150 children in the US born in 1992 were diagnosed with autism. And that's not like, we gotta get very specific with words, was diagnosed with it. Not had it in a cosmic sense, like God could know simultaneously everybody that had it. That's who was diagnosed with it, okay? 1 in 36 born in 2012 were diagnosed with it. Now that is a change, and the actual experts whose brains haven't been munched on by worms will say we're much better at diagnosing it and more people are familiar with it, so they get their kids actually screened for it. Those are all good reasons, and that's not necessarily to say that represents all of the change in numbers. but it's the vast majority of it, and the numbers were never 1 in 10,000 anyway. But the issue is that RFK Jr. doesn't know and doesn't care anything about this. He has proven one thing over the last couple decades: he cannot learn when it comes to these topics. No matter how much evidence is presented to him, no matter how many of these studies are discredited, nothing. He doesn't have the capacity to learn because he doesn't have the will or motivation to learn. He decided years ago what outcome he wanted, and he has been twisting the facts ever since then to bring us to it. And now, unfortunately, for many people in America, he's in a position to actually ban these vaccines, which will do nothing to change the numbers of those diagnosed with autism, but will result in more outbreaks of potentially lethal diseases. Brett, what do you think?
This is the problem with politics becoming like the entertainment of our day. There's no movies everybody talks about. There's no television shows everybody talks about. If you think that everyone's doing the same, everyone's seeing the same thing in your feed, you're wrong. It's just the only thing that's consistent is like political figures, and they are now characters. This is a sitcom. Because like if you watch a sitcom, every character learns something at the end of every episode, but they'll still make the same exact mistake next week. That is RFK. Why? His whole jam is that he doesn't respect experts. And I don't respect wrong experts. I don't understand quack experts. I don't respect people who are in charge of reviewing scientists who don't employ the scientific method in anything. They have this feeling that they're right. And I understand that everybody has a feeling they're right. If anyone calls you an elitist, they're doing it so they can feel better than you. Like that is a main theme of humanity. From sports to politics to shows to arguments. That's just how it is. And the problem with RFK is the guy, like, we'll see refutation after refutation of his own argument. But there's this vibe people have where it's like, I'm smarter than experts. And yeah, experts can be wrong. But we have a way to find out whether this wrongness is a problem with the system or just that one particular person. And it's the scientific method, and the peer-reviewed journals and the scientists are all at it right now. And what's weird is you guys walk into that whole thing the same way Elon Musk walked into the Social Security office and was like, everybody's 150 years old. And he was wrong because he lacked the humility to learn anything about the thing he was now declaring himself an expert over. Fresh eyes is one thing, man. But if you walk in with those fresh eyes and they're closed, sewn shut for the express purpose of making you feel better than everybody, you forget that there are consequences to that. And the consequences are like suddenly everybody has measles again.
Yeah,
like
which
that's
we're seeing.
Insane. This is the whitest crap you can. This is camping, man. This is like people. We've solved all these problems, but because you're bored and want to feel like you're important, you're giving us all these problems again. Like we have houses. Why are you going and living in tents?
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody just wants to feel that they've discovered some secret knowledge. Everybody wants it. And some people, they pursue that, I think, in a healthier way, like doing like really in-depth week-to-week theorizing about how White Lotus is gonna turn out or something. And then other people move in, I think, much less healthy ways. And they aren't satisfied to just doom themselves or their family. They want to inflict this on other people. And so they're gonna try to do this. Again, I guess in September, they're gonna have a press conference. They're gonna announce we're banning the vaccines. And they're gonna try, there's gonna be legal challenges, and fingers crossed, we win the midterms while those challenges are still going on so that it never actually stops people from being able to get access to the vaccines they need. But we have to retake power to start to roll back these terrible things that they're doing, the vast majority of which we predicted would happen.
Right, and the worst part about, I would say this is a problem with political news shows, this is a problem with RFK, this is just an issue you gotta deal with, is like in being this strident iconoclast, you grow a fan base of people that need you to be that strident iconoclast. And it's great, and you show out, and it's difficult to be the leader. You go out there, think of Jon Snow on the wall, and like the guy we all hate who runs the wall is like, it's tough to be a leader, everybody second guesses you. But you do it and you got people behind it, and then you find out that you've tried to invade Russia in the winter, which is what these guys are discovering now, right? And then if they change course, they're afraid they're gonna alienate the supporters that are the only reason they've been given charge over this in the first place. And that's what he did with the measles vaccine. I mean, it's pretty clear to me. He's like, oh, kids are dying of measles. He's like, but this vaccine's fine though. I've been sowing generic doubt about this without any real, like finding one study and being like, this is a study at nih.gov. Bro, that's like saying I found it at a library. It's just a collection of stuff.
It's a place, yeah. Well, and he's also been undercutting even that. He'll say it's totally fine. And then he's like, let's stop focusing just on vaccinating. Let's do treatments. Let's pump people full of silver or whatever.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Again, there are so many issues with this movement and their allies. The predilection for fascism, the desperation to have somebody make your choices for you, the need to cancel anyone you disagree with in terms of their speech, in terms of their job, maybe kill them. But the thorough ignorance, the thorough throbbing stupidity of these people, I could not hate it more. Okay, you look like you had something you want to say very quickly.
I did, but it's like the key to this is
actually,
everybody.
Why don't we start a break?
Yeah,
and then the first part of the social break, we'll get your comment. We're gonna come back. We have a couple more important stories. We'll be back in a few.
Smart move. I agree. That's why I paused. Had the same thought. Rawr!
We're on the same page, Brett. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, here's something I've been thinking about lately, which is like, and I'll give an example of what people on the left have done, right? People on the left are like, COVID, problem. And they're right, millions of people died, right? But like at no point, but now everybody I know in Los Angeles is out and about without masks. And there's just this weird dynamic of people will do the thing that makes sense, but like there's a weird trick you gotta figure out to just kind of like, you have to have someone on your side give you permission to do the thing that you want to do. Like, I don't know how to harness that or what the next step is, but like, you have to, I don't know. It's like, no one's gonna say, you're right, I am stupid and I am wrong. But at some point, their Overton window, you could say, is gonna shift, or behaviors is gonna shift. There's gonna be a moment where you just like, people just kind of move on.
Sure.
I don't know how to make that happen.
You can't focus on everything simultaneously, even if on some level you know that you should. The world is a complex place. Okay, let's see. Really fast, I realized I haven't read any podcast reviews in quite a while, so I loaded up Apple Podcast, and let's see. The latest one from Pugsley. Hey, Pugsley, that's a throwback. Says, making terrible news more, and it doesn't actually tell me the whole title, but I think better. John presents the awfulness of the modern world with a relentlessly positive outlook and the embodiment of the underdog spirit you want to root for. I like that description. I don't know that I have a relentlessly positive outlook, especially recently, but thank you, Pugsley. And the best news says, you are my escape from hearing how he is so great and can do no wrong. I love the podcast, just wish the aftermath was a part of it. Keep strong, Dragon Daddy, thank you. And I do realize the irony of me responding to these during the part of the show that does not become part of the podcast. So that's great. But anyway, I think we should have a second little bonus episode each day. That's the aftermath. I think we should start to do that.
You're looking at me. I don't understand that pitch, but I'm sure if given enough time to wrap my head around it,
we put out 2 episodes a day. First hour of the aftermath. Boom. People can watch one or both.
One thing we know is John doesn't say enough words in a day, and then later doesn't just like sit there like, oh, you mean upload the aftermath as a, see, I told you I just didn't understand the idea.
There you go. Okay.
It proved that I'm bad at comprehension.
Let's let that brew for a bit. In the meantime, B166ER comes in with a massive 50 memberships granted yet again, because this is something that B166ER has definitely done multiple times, but thank you. That is super nice of you.
Bigger.
Yeah, but no, but I think there was a request specifically to say it that way.
Oh, really?
Several months ago, I believe so. Yeah.
Oh.
Now you're making me question myself, but I'm pretty sure it was a request.
That's just exactly what I hate about myself.
But anyway, thank you so much. That's super nice. Single-handedly expanding the membership base. I really do appreciate that. We were just talking about the possibility of doing another. What?
I treated you so condescendingly.
It's not the first time. Anyway, I've been talking about the possibility of a new Draganathon for this year, maybe to dye my hair, which some people are saying now is beginning to look more and more like Michael Shore.
It looks no, it's not. It looks great. No,
well,
that's what, really nice when hair. People said here's what it is, John, between you and me. When people said I started looking more like Ryan Reynolds than Jim from The Office, it's because my hairline was receding.
Ryan Reynolds has a higher hairline than Jim from The Office?
He's got the butt at the top. And you might, but I don't think yours is. You thick-haired bastard.
I mean, it is looking pretty good. I'm not gonna disagree with anyone there.
I love confident John.
By the way, in the chat, Ryan Ralph says John grows a mustache. I mean, I kind of do. Like, if you're saying I should just have that, then you are wrong, sir.
I can tell you how much money I would pay to see a mustache.
Just a mustache?
Because along the way, your beard looks great.
Thank you. I trimmed it.
Like you got a whole Torvald beard.
So weird. Okay, we got to do these two stories. We didn't even do a full rundown because I wanted to fit it. We got to fit these two. So whenever we're ready, let's jump into this.
But we set up DOGE.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we could do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
The budgetary savings goals and how much do you think you've achieved so far?
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. Well, thanks to your fantastic leadership, this amazing cabinet, and the very talented DOGE team, I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion.
Okay, so all of those were announcements. That's not anything that's been done. So first of all, he's on a stage and people are cheering for him and he'll say literally anything to keep that going. That's all he wants in his life is for people to think that he's cool or interesting or smart or funny or whatever. So he throws out $2 trillion. Okay, so then he's asked, what have you done? And he says, I want $1 trillion. Again, that's not what you've done. That's just what you want. Now he's excited to announce next year it could be as high as $150 billion. By the middle of winter, he's gonna be announcing how thrilled he is to say that he's cost us $50 billion. It just keeps going down for a couple different reasons. First of all, he's incompetent. He's not nearly as smart as he wants you to believe he is. The DOGE team doesn't actually know what they're doing. There isn't actually that much waste, fraud, and abuse of the sort they care to find about, by the way. And you can only fire every worker in the government so many times. So this is pretty good. Now, they are going to at some point claim 150 billion or whatever, and maybe they'll have actually cut 150 billion from the budget. And for some people, that will be a good thing. I will continue to say, as I mock you for dialing it back from 2 trillion all the way to 150 billion, that if you're just stopping payments for things we want, that's not really a savings in all the meanings of the word. I guess it's technically a savings, but I wanted that. We need that stuff. It's not good that you cut it. And so, like, I hope this is the beginning of the end of the doggy thing, Brett, that we can start to move on. I mean, it has been so dialed back in terms of what they're even like loftily promising. It's just so stupid. It's such a waste of time, a waste of expertise, a waste of what we are owed from the government. And I hope this is the beginning of the end, but what do you think?
It's just people, I understand the thirst people have for having someone finally address the thing they're upset about, right? That's just like a general dynamic. And people who voted for Trump are frequently like, I'm tired of all the waste, fraud, and abuse. And finally, Elon Musk is addressing it, bro. Like under Clinton Gore, there was like they're the ones who actually balanced the budget, right? They're the last ones to balance the budget. And progressives have a huge problem with a lot of it. And then just like general people on the left, people not progressive have a huge problem with it. And so do poor people and people who have families who need assistance like that. But it has happened before. And what's weird is like the people who love Trump hate the Clintons. It's like, but he was the last one to actually do the thing you wanted. Like, it's just the cognitive dissonance. But as I said on this show for many years, it's like they're the truffle pigs who can sniff out what people are generally complaining about. They're like, I think if I get Elon Musk to do a waste, fraud, and abuse thing, and I vaguely tie it to some acronym used in crypto, then we'll just have a mega bomb. And that's what happened. But it was a mega bomb. Like, he's going in there as the same way that it was a redundant idea to have someone audit these things that already have auditors rather than just go and find out what the auditors are finding. Yeah. Like, it's just a bad idea. He goes in there and he realizes it's not as bad as he thought, which is in many ways like a scarier proposition. If like all the money's going somewhere and we're still up a creek with deficits, budgetarily, yeah, that's a problem. But these guys never have solutions because they never were experts in this stuff. And of course they're not, because Elon Musk runs his companies like a government, like it's all deficit financed.
100%. Yeah, it is in some ways scarier, I guess, but it's been interesting to see them come in and man, they just want to tackle a couple problems. And when they're not able to, it's interesting to find out that maybe that problem wasn't nearly as bad as we had been led to believe. And again, not to say that there's not massive waste, fraud, abuse in the government, but much of it is not the sort that they want to do anything about. Like massive contracts needlessly pumped up to military contractors is a thing that Elon Musk is going to want to get rid of because he benefits from it. So it's not to say that it's not there, but the sort that they imply where it's just poor people ripping off the government and a bunch of employees aren't doing anything, like that isn't really there. And then the other version of it is we had been told there are marauding hordes of cannibalistic Guatemalan murderers. And oh my God, there's millions of them, we got to get rid of them. And they can't scrape together like 50, 100 to deport after 2 months. So I guess that problem wasn't really as bad as they said it was. So hey, maybe this is a cause for optimism, Brett.
And the easiest way to describe it is poor people, and with the money that goes to the people ripping off the government, poor people spend their money. They spend all their money. That's why they're poor. So every dollar you put into their pocket, corrupt or not, does not turn into a horde of Smaug cash the way it does when you give that money to millionaires and billionaires. They don't reinvest it in any meaningful way. They do it to enrich themselves. It's all financial tricks. Yeah. But if you want to cut out what the Cato Institute says is $181 billion a year in federal spending on corporate welfare, there's the same amount you whittled your numbers down to. So either flip who you're taking it from, or you just cut the corporate welfare too and you just doubled it.
Yeah. I like the horde of Smaug cash. I want that. That's my goal now.
I was worried after I said it. I was like, cash means horde.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but I like
cash,
it.
Oh, cash.
Anyway,
cash.
we have this great stuff on Elon Musk and DOGE, but I think we're not gonna be able to do both of these. So I think we'll save that until Monday so we can move on to Pam Bondi, I think. Or would you yeah. Okay, we'll save that. It'll keep, don't worry. It's just funny. We're just gonna make fun of Elon Musk a little bit and he deserves it, so that's fine. Anyway, with that said, I wanna move on to this. Feels like every day it gets just a little bit more North Korean up in here. And I'm not talking about Fox News, I'm talking about her, Pam Bondi, who is supposed to be sort of like our law enforcement officer, the most responsible, independent arbiter of the law. Instead is just showering Donald Trump with the most blatantly dishonest compliments possible. Take a look.
President, we've had some great wins in the last few days. That you were overwhelmingly elected by the biggest majority. The U.S. Americans want you to be president because of your agenda.
What the hell is Pam Bondi doing with her life? I know she's got a great job. She's gotten a bunch of money from Trump. I guess this is what you have to give him. You were overwhelmingly elected by the biggest majority. The biggest majority, and it was overwhelming. Do we need to fact check this? Does everybody knows, right? Trump won 49.9% of the vote last November. It wasn't even 50%. He beat Harris by 1.48 percentage points. It was an incredibly narrow win nationwide. And by the way, of the 59 winning presidential campaigns in our entire national history, his ranks 49th in terms of the percentage of the popular vote margin. It's in the bottom 10. overwhelmingly by the biggest majority. It's literally one of the smallest that we've ever seen. You have to go back to like the times of like people like tooling around on donkeys and stuff to find election wins of this scale. And you can look at his electoral vote thing was fine. It's middle of the pack or whatever since 1960. But on a percentage basis, his winning margin was the 4th smallest since 1960. He barely won, as I often say, 250,000 votes across 3 swing states, and it would have gone the opposite way. But she has to say this sort of stuff. And look, if Laura Ingraham says that, if Maria Bartiromo says that, it doesn't really matter. But Pam Bondi's role is kind of important. She's the AG. She's supposed to be able to tell what is true from what is false, to understand what cases to pursue, what criminals to try to track down, all of that stuff. But she isn't just a loyalist. She isn't just a pro-Trump propagandist. She doesn't just have Trump derangement syndrome. She would have you believe that she has it as hard as anyone has ever had it, Brett. What do you think?
Oh, when she starts talking, all I hear is, Piper, no. I don't think it should be difficult for me now. I don't think at this point in my life I should be uncomfortable. For those,
is that the mom from White Lotus?
Yeah, the mom from It's Parker Posey. But like the truth is, Pam Bondi was investigating Trump until he gave her a bunch of money.
Yep.
That's it. That's all you need to know about Pam Bondi. Bondi? Like that's it. That's the answer. She is corrupt. And when you hear someone talk like that, dude, the whole concept of Trump is that he is plain spoken, tells it like it is, sounds like a normal person working through the issues. Pam Bondi, who's licking his grundle.
Oh my God.
Like, that's not a normal person. That's the team you're on. You're on that team with those people. And you could say like, oh, he's neutralized those people. No, he's turned them into his attack dogs. And they're going after like some crazy random stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're going after law firms.
He didn't buy her
clients they had.
He bought her, but he didn't buy her to use her for good. He bought her to use her for money, for things to protect him, to make him more of to do things that the people who wrote the Constitution do not want a president to do.
Like when she was selected instead of like Matt Gaetz, or like it could have been Alina Habba, like people acted like it's better. Is it better at all? Like this, dude, like has Alina Habba said anything more embarrassing than what Pam Bondi just said? Yeah, probably. But like, she hasn't said a lot of stuff. Like it's kind of on the same level. Pam Bondi is basically Alina Habba at this point. Anyway, with that said, we don't have time to talk about Tesla. I apologize, we went a little bit over, but we are going to end this hour so that we can take a little break, come back. Everybody, we want to see you on the other side because we're going to throw away some garbage people of the week. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene gets community noted, which is going to be a lot of fun. We'll be back after a bit with this. Welcome back, one and all, to the Aftermath. John and Brett here. Brett, I've already mentioned this on the show, but this is the first time you've been on the show since it happened. We played golf together.
We did. It was very nice.
How was it for you?
It was great. John and I had the most John and Brett miscommunication I have ever seen.
I forgot about that.
The miscommunication was me saying to John, like, first of all, I was on the throne doing my paperwork in the morning, if you know what I mean. And John texted me, "Is there a dress code? I should wear shorts and a t-shirt?" And I just wrote, "No jeans, wear a shorts." So shorts, t-shirts, everything. And John shows up in jeans. And I was like, I wrote no jeans. And then I show it to him on the golf course and he goes, "You wrote no jeans."
Because I said shorts, and the first response is no jeans. So I was like,
yeah, but the rest of it doesn't contradict any of that.
Was wearing, but I wore jeans.
So everything would also be allowed in your parsing. Believe me, I only think about my mistakes. So
anyway, I've funny, even though I was in jeans. But I had a lot of fun. Brett, by the way, is quite good at golf. Everyone should know that. He hits that ball. Oh, just like Trump says, he hits it and wow, million yards. Wow.
So now you realize when you were making fun of Trump's golf skills, and I was like, he's actually not that bad. Like, he's not that bad.
But people say that he cheats to win. Like, so he is.
Yeah, but I've seen him swing. He's got one of those swings where you're like, oh my God, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But like you break down the mechanics and you're like, I see what you're doing and it works, so do it.
I don't care about that. I care about us, and we have fun.
Women with large breasts have to adjust their swing because they get in the way. So do men with large. This is a very real thing. This is don't read anything into that. But like guys with big guts also have to do similar workarounds, and his is a crossover and like flamp.
Yeah, well, look, I want to do it again, and because I just hit it kind of like skip it along the ground, and I want to figure that out.
We'll work on it.
I want to do that.
I was afraid you'd spend every second since watching tutorial videos. I was very terrified that's what.
No, I do want to do that. I have not gotten around to doing that, but we did have a lot of fun. It's fun to drive a golf cart, and Jorby and Adi were there. That was a lot of fun too. Okay, well, with that said, why don't we jump into the news? It's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Brett, who is your garbage person of the week?
As a fan of comic book movies, my garbage person of the week is a hater of the most recent comic book movie, which looks awesome, Superman, directed by James Gunn. Ben Shapiro has a huge problem with it. Take a look.
I watched the new preview for Superman that was put out by James Gunn. The gold standard for Superman movies remains the original Superman because it gets right the idea that there's a solemnity to Superman, that he is supposed to be the embodiment of America. And then the second half of the movie shifts into a more comic book humorous mode. It's not that hard to get Superman right. He's supposed to be the embodiment of everything cool and heroic about America. And of course, he's supposed to be charming as well. That's the whole shtick. So you don't need full-scale James Gunn. He's the same character as essentially Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy, and all the jokes are the same as a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It's silly and stupid and bad. Do not like. 2 thumbs down. Very disappointed. Ugh.
What a weird take on Superman, by the way. First of all, I mean, the original movie's fine. There's some weird stuff in it, like this strange discolored nose of the guy who plays the flashback of Superman, like this prosthetic. And that's the best it looks in the whole movie. It's actually a different color from the rest of his face. It's horrible. It takes you out of it so much. Everybody's on a string. It's weird, but it's fine. Christopher Reeve is charming. But like, Ben just declared that Superman is a symbol of everything that is right about America and good about America. This is someone who doesn't understand what Superman's about. Superman is an illegal alien with superpowers that can do things normal, natural born Americans can't do. He forges papers and steals jobs from a natural born American at a newspaper. The villain in the movie, Ben, is you and Elon Musk. The villain is Lex Luthor. He's an industrialist oligarch who thinks he's smarter than everybody and uses that to weasel his way into controlling the levers of power in both business and the government. Basically, it is the opposite of everything you espoused to be what's good about America. But he's crapping on Superman. The trailer looks awesome. I don't know if you've seen like all this stuff that they've put out after years and years of having horrible Superman movies that don't do well. It looks fantastic. Don't worry, Ben. He's still protecting children from horrible things that happen out there. He doesn't like that and basically what's frustrating about this is Ben is trying to cancel culture Superman. Yeah. And I think it's so stupid. I don't know, John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a DC movie, so I haven't been following it all that much. I watched part of the trailer, it looks fine or whatever. I haven't seen many of those movies because the tone just hasn't really seemed right in DC. I appreciate that he is finally whining about a movie, not because it stars a woman or a black person or something. He's just generally whining. I prefer that. Also, has he ever liked a movie? I guess he liked the original Superman decades ago.
He likes Wicked.
Something. He likes Wicked. He likes Wicked.
He likes
really?
Wicked.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, that might be character growth for him. But also, Superman doesn't embody everything that's cool and awesome about America. Captain America embodies everything that's cool and awesome about America, except he probably doesn't like that because Captain America punches Nazis and stuff.
Well, now he's black, so.
Oh no, that's a good point.
Yeah, sorry.
So anyway, yeah, just. My God, this dude does not like movies.
But here's the thing: is like Ben Shapiro has created most of the stuff about the military-industrial complex. For those of you not familiar with this concept, the military-industrial complex declares actual wars so they can profit off it. Ben Shapiro and the military-industrial complex declare culture wars so they can profit off it. That's why they go like, "Oh, Snow White's woke. I'm going to make my own woke Snow White. I'm going to attack everything that Disney does because it's woke, and I'm going to say all woke movies are horrible." And oh, by the way, I just raised $1 gajillion so that I can make my own stuff that doesn't, I don't want to say brainwash kids the other way because that's exactly what I'm doing. But what's hilarious to me is that company that he started with that is basically spearheaded by this guy, Jeremy Boring, who's the CEO, and he's basically thrown himself into like the production arm of the military industrial complex. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's Trouble in Neverland. Sot.
Daily Wire co-CEO Jeremy Boring to step down. His story has led to a whole bunch of conspiracy shenanigans.
From what I've gathered, and again, these are all rumors, but it seems like they're all pointing at this place, that this dude was one of the hardest dudes to work for. Candace just made a video yesterday. He calls himself the God King.
The so-called God King of the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring, is no longer co-CEO. People who used to work for the Daily Wire suggesting this was a terrible implosion. What is the truth?
How's the business doing?
Not good.
A little nod.
Like the business, I don't know. Mike, this is where I love to get into like the speculation about the business, but I know we got to move on soon. But like, they just got rid of Jeremy Boring, who presents himself like this in his own commercials for parts of the military industrial complex when he declared a war. Let's go to graphic 2. When he declared a war on razors, he presented himself like this in his Jeremy Boring by Jeremy's Razors ad.
Oh my God.
The worst part about this is it either signals, like, I actually want to play this next SOT to show you how they've been spending the money that they raised at $1 billion valuation for this company. Here is what they've been, this is what Jeremy is saying he's stepping away from to spend all his time on. Take a look.
Welcome to week 4 of production on the Pendragon cycle. We're in a beautiful Hungarian forest for the entirety of this week. I'm here at our Standing Stone set, shooting various scenes that happen in this ancient ring of stones. Ryan and the Hawk unit are shooting the meeting of Ganieta and Merlin.
The guy's spending millions of dollars in a Hungarian forest with a Hawk unit. I wonder if the finance, they're either trying to raise another bit of money as the rumors, or they're about to sell, which is going to be really depressing when they actually do become gajillionaires. And by selling like Fox, who's trying to eliminate a competitor or consolidate because they too are financially shaky. But it's just a nightmare. These guys are either going to be wildly even more wealthy than they are off a failed business, or they're going to be bankrupt, and that'd be awesome. But either way, I just don't trust any of their decisions because, like, again, like he's like, oh, I need to cast someone to be the fairest of them all. Here's a photo of the girl that they cast next to Ben in this graphic 3. He thinks the fairest of them all is someone who looks exactly like him. I don't think these guys are making the best business decisions from a creative standpoint. But
I think, look, if they want to, I prefer them making their own movies to just whining about what other creative and artistic people make. I think that's more productive. I think that there's a lot of issues with them psychologically and ideologically that make it incredibly unlikely that anything they produce will have widespread appeal. I think there'll be a lot of conservatives who will feel obligated to go see it and might even convince themselves that they like it. That's probably about where that will cap out.
But Andrew Schultz made a good point in that same thing I showed, where like you can just watch Yellowstone.
Yeah,
and it has other stuff you actually like on it.
Yeah. Anyway, good garbage person. Okay. I'm now going to make fun of the cartoons that they produce. I'm kidding. We've done that before. My garbage person of the week is once again Kristi Noem, who's the worst. Now, she spent the past couple of months putting on costumes to be like a fireman and a soldier, and now I'm a pilot. I'm the one steering the plane or whatever, and wasting a lot of taxpayer dollars to have fun doing like a bucket list of different, I don't know, cosplay opportunities. And apparently that's going to continue, according to her.
Now, some critics are saying, you look too glamorous when you're wandering through these mega prisons, or, you shouldn't be all tacked out, posing for cameras. What do you say to those people?
Well, Jesse, every day I wake up and there's new criticisms. It's something different every single day. So I try not to pay attention to the noise. Obviously, I'm guided by the folks that I work with every day to be appropriate for the situation that I'm in and to take the same precautions that they do. And I will tell you that I oversee 26 different components of the Department of Homeland Security. And they are so proud of the fact that I'm willing to wear an ICE hat, that I'm willing to wear an HSI vest, that I'm willing to go, in to their and wear something and be proud of them and the work that they do. They didn't have that with the last leadership team.
Okay, so we have an actual issue where she's been chosen for a job that she's not qualified to actually run this massive bureaucracy and doesn't appear to be doing that. She says she's in charge of 26 components or whatever. When exactly? You're jetting off to do a photo shoot at a prison, then you're jetting off to pretend that you know how to, steer a bearcat, and then you're jetting off to pretend that you know how to fly a plane. Like, you're doing all of that. That's something. Doing photo shoots, modeling or whatever is a job. It can be an intense one, but it's not the same thing as doing the bureaucracy. I don't think you can do both of those. And he feels obligated to bring it up. He, of course, has no backbone, like he says they're complaining you're too glamorous. That's not what people are complaining about. Specifically recently, they've complained that in your need to create these photo shoots, you came close to potentially shooting one of these officers in the head with a gun that you're not apparently trained to use. That's a significant concern, not a small thing. It's not about glamour, okay? And all of this has costed a ton of money. When you want to go do this and you want to bring libs of TikTok with you, we're paying for those trips, by the way, for their hotel rooms, for their flights and all that. When you want to put together a group of 100 officers to track down 3 migrants, how many millions of dollars did that cost? We paid for that so you could do your little photo shoot. This ain't about glamour. This is about waste, corruption, and fraud. That's our concern. And her defense is, I get criticized all the time, which isn't necessarily the defense you think it is. But then don't worry about it. They love that I'm willing to wear a hat. Yeah, I bet all of them. I bet the rank and file are thrilled every time they have to lead you around by the hand in one of these things. I think that their main concern is having you in one of their vests or whatever. They don't see this as a massive waste of time, a mockery of the work that they do, that you're pretending like you know how to do it when they've actually made a career out of it. So that's her defense, Brett. What do you think?
They're so happy that I'm willing to engage in cosplay and photo ops. Sure. I mean, I get that yeah, everybody who's probably in that is jazzed that you're like, yes, go do more of the thing that's your job. That's it. I understand that. I understand like the rallying cry of people in the job when someone shows up and is like, keep doing it. But like, it is all a photo op. And what's amazing is like, in the meantime, the only thing that people are paying attention to right now is that they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
They sent some guy to El Salvador who was a hairdresser. And worse, they're like these guys that are all about shining a light on waste, fraud, and corruption, as you said, like really don't want to participate in actually rooting it out when it makes them look bad. I personally think that people who are really focused on finding out. I mean, the easiest way to say this is I prefer principled people. who even if they do something bad, they'll call it out, they'll say, I'm sorry, and they'll fix it and they'll move on. But that's not what these guys do, because they're just as bad as the thing they're criticizing.
Yeah, that's not what we're getting. And even when the evidence comes out, that, for instance, the vast majority of the migrants sent to the Salvadoran prison had no criminal record whatsoever. They weren't even being accused of committing any crime other than being here without documentation. And in her interview with Jesse Waters, she once again says, we're going after the worst of the worst. No, you're not. You're not even going after them, let alone getting them, because apparently there's not that many of the worst of the worst. That's why you're having to track down people that haven't committed any issues other than paperwork issues. And some of the people that you're sending, that you're extraordinary renditioning to other countries, didn't even have paperwork issues. They were legal residents. And oopsie, we sent them to a place that they might get shanked. But don't worry, at least she takes responsibility for that. Oh, sorry, no. She says that he and they should stay there for the rest of their lives. These people, the vast majority of whom have not even been accused of littering, should rot in a vicious prison for decades. But at least in her defense, it might not be decades. It might be days. And that'll be it. That'll be the rest of their life. And then that'll be that.
I mean, no, John, they were arrested for the grievous crime of believing in the American dream.
And wanting to pursue it. Yeah, exactly. I guess it's okay when it's Superman, though, depending on how he's predicted or depicted. Anyway, with that said, we did ask you to vote for your garbage person of the week, and 64,000 of you voted. Thank you to those who voted. Coming in at number 4, 2% of the vote, is the Georgia GOP for their anti-trans attack ad, where they depicted John Ossoff elbowing a woman in the face, which I guess is a thing that you can legally do in an ad and you don't get any trouble, showing a politician physically striking a woman. I guess you can do that. I guess we should start doing that now, and I'm going to start doing that. Anyway.
That's the wokest ad I've ever heard, where it's like, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, you can still get elbowed in the face by a Jew. Like, that's the most progressive woke depict. I thought that's what we wanted.
Number 3 with 3% of the vote, Kristi Noem for continuing her gross ICE cosplay. They didn't agree with me today. Your runner-up with 30% of the vote is the SCOTUS for allowing Trump to resume the Alien Enemies Act deportations, although they did have some other judgments in that area that weren't as bad. But no, it's Trump, 64% for golfing while he destroys the economy. Overwhelming support in the poll. Interestingly, not overwhelming interest in the video we did about it, but a lot of people did vote for it in the poll. Thank you everyone for that. And now we turn to more positive news. The heroes of the week. Coming in at number 4, 3% of the vote, is John Oliver for attacking J.K. Rowling over a trans obsession. I think he deserved more of the vote. That was a really good episode on trans athletes. But anyway, people didn't agree. Number 3, 9% of the vote for Path of Exile 2 gamers for trolling Musk during a live stream. That was very funny. Your runner-up got 12% of the vote. That's Bernie Sanders for reintroducing a bill to raise the minimum wage. But it's not even close. 76% of you voted for the hero of the week, which is the protesters for coming together for the hands-off protests, these massive protests at well over 100 locations around the country. Thank you to all of you. Okay, really fast, let's jump into one more story to close out the week. Marjorie Greene must have been so happy with herself when she thought she could own the libs and point out that her conspiracies were all true. Unfortunately, the facts once again weren't on her side. See, she tweeted this, the left always pays protesters, and here's the proof that they do that. And that's this Wall Street apes tweet, which should have been your first sign that maybe this wasn't going to be what you thought. And it's this thing of requests for people to sell anti-Trump protest merch at events. And she said, this is proof that protesters are paid. No, it's not. The apes got it wrong for the first time ever. See, as the community note shows, this is an advertisement to hire vendors to sell anti-Trump merchandise, not money to protest. No, see, it's requests for vendors to sell merch to the protesters who are gonna be there. Because there's a lot of protesters, quite naturally, because they don't like what Trump is doing, that we want to provide some merchandise to them, and we need vendors to do that. And Marj, she's either so stupid or so desperate that she can't even tell that. That, by the way, at least as of when we went live, was still live. That tweet, she didn't even take it down, even though it proved how wrong, how boneheaded, how much of a dumb donkey she is. She just left it up. And even though it's been community noted, her fans are like, no, I still think you got it. All the Things, who pays $8 a month to Elon Musk to be on Twitter, says the fact that the ads say they pay in cash is a big tell that it's more than merch sales. Selling merch is something you'd have staff doing. No, but that's what it's gonna be. They're gonna accept cash for it. Again, these people, Jesus. Hank Moody says reporters need to go undercover to catch them in the act and document it, tracing these payments back to their origins. Answer the ads as prospective protesters. Okay, do that. Do that. I'm not at all worried about you doing that. Go and say that you're gonna sell merch or whatever. You can do that, that wouldn't actually be hard. Hank Moody, you can do it. I know you're busy paying $8 a month to be on Twitter or whatever, but you could just do it if that's a thing that you want to do. And again, we already know that this is projection. We know that they AstroTurf this stuff. They put together the buses to bring the people in to do an insurrection or whatever. Corey Lewandowski even confirmed that they had paid actors appearing at Donald Trump's 2016 presidential announcement. And I'm not saying that his rallies are full of it now or whatever, but they know that they've done it. That's why they have to continue to pretend that all of the rage they're seeing around the country isn't as natural as we know it is. What do you think?
The entire right media apparatus on the internet is paid. Like for years. I don't know if anyone, a lot of our viewers have been with us for years. Like our videos would come up, and pretty soon you would get a suggestion for a Ben Shapiro video. Next to it would say promote it, Charlie Kirk, promote it, Matt Walsh, promote it. They were paying to be in your feed. And I just talked to someone who I was like, I was venting and I was like, yo, like you gotta, and the right wing, someone just backs up a Brinks truck and dumps it on them and they have a ton of money to waste. And the guy who works in making deals was like, I can confirm that that's what happens. Like I have a lot of experience in that exactly happening. And they've just paid for views for so long, the same way they paid actors to show up at Trump's thing, his announcement in 2016, to create this, I hate to tell you, fake news, this feeling of legitimacy on a set. All these people are like, the moon landing was fake, but like Donald Trump's actual announcement was fake. They had fake supporters there to make you think that they were really supporters. And you saw that and you're like, they're real supporters out there.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And like, yeah, it's just frustrating. And then there's another bunch of them that are like, oh, by the way, it's so crazy that like, when the protesters are out there, they all like are chanting the same chants and doing the same thing. Yeah, there's flyers. It's like from the organizers being like, here, this would be nice. Like that's how you organize, period. You just are like, here's what we're saying. Here's what we're about. Here's a flyer.
And by the way, if you want to see a demonstration of that, just look at any Trump rally. Everybody didn't just make the same poster.
So at the RNC, right after Trump was almost assassinated, whatever, I went to a Charlie, we covered a Charlie Kirk mini rally and they advertised it as though all these people made signs themselves. Oh, get well soon, Donald. Do this, Donald. Oh, we love you, Donald. And marker and everything. They were handing those out.
Yeah.
They were faking grassrootsiness by having their paid staff make fake homemade signs and hand them out to people. And I interviewed them about that and they were like, oh wow, I can't, and they lied to me. We had already filmed them making them and handing them out. Then we got them on tape being like, oh, these people really made these signs themselves. They just lie.
Yeah, just lie. It's artificial, which by the way, you can do that. Just, we were gonna point out that that's what you did. And that as far as I know, literally no one on the left has ever had that. Because why would billionaires pay for that? Doesn't even make any sense. Anyway, okay, we are way over. Oh, I didn't get to play the video, but anyway, thank you everybody for joining us, not only today, but throughout the week. We really appreciate your continuing support. Everyone who's signed up as a subscriber, those who've signed up as members, B166ER, who's gifted all the memberships, and the other people that did. Super nice of you, and we really do appreciate that. I'm gonna be doing the first hour of the Young Turks later on today with Waz and Cenk. Unless things change once again and Brett's there. It seems to be going back and forth. But anyway, it should be a lot of fun and I hope to see you there. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.